Happy weekend, everybody, and greetings from the workshop. Right, updates. Face on camera. I told you I would. Anyway, enough about that. This video is not about my face, thankfully. So, update on the 650s. Let me kind of point you in the right direction here. That, the one with the kind of the blue rattle can effect over there, is a F model. So CB650F. So that's a 1980. That one right there is a 1977 model, which is awesome. And that one right there is a 1978 model. So the reason I'm pointing this out to you is the blue bike, which was more or less complete, which I told you was a Bitzer, is in fact a Bitzer. The motor, as I mentioned, is for a 77. The mudguard, fork stanchions, etc. for a 77. The wheels are off a 78. And it was done because they wanted to have reliable uprated braking. In other words, disc brake at the back, as you can see right there, and double disc brakes at the front. So this is the wrong frame. This frame is for a 77. This is the wrong frame for double disc. So they've kind of cobbled things together, as I showed you in the last video. Things like having Honda bits and pieces on here, sort of dodgy return spring, just general bodginess like this, having to extend the brake reservoir out the back, all this sort of thing, right? It's just a mess. So instead of doing this, because we have a really good condition frame that I've just stripped, which is this guy right here, that 77 motor can go straight into this 78 frame. And this swing arm is set up for double disc. So the problem is kind of solved. That's all the ancillaries. And actually there's quite a lot of good stuff in there. So between what's on this bike at the moment, being a mix and match, and what was on that frame right there, we've actually got a pretty decent setup. So the plan is tickled motor into that frame. Obviously that frame and swing arm and all the black bits will go off to be powder coated. So things like the battery box, for example, will go off, not powder coated, to go and get blasted and satin black painted. We've already got some calipers lined up, ready and waiting, so that's good. Remove the bodywork, put this assemblage into that frame when it comes back from Central Coast abrasives, blasting it and satin finishing it. And then basically swap over these wheels. So these are the correct wheels, correct discs, correct calipers, correct rear end on this as well. So we can keep the swing arm and the frame, and then the bodywork, which is correct for a 78 onwards, the blue with the gold pinstripe there, will go on that new frame with that motor in that frame. So it's actually a really good result. The nice thing as well, most of the tins on this is really good. It's got a complete exhaust that actually works. So these are very hard to find exhaust system for. So this is nice. This will make a really nice project. And then some lucky owner will get a rather peppy little monster that looks a lot like that, only with none of the bodginess. So not a bad result yet to come. So what next? That's the two bikes that essentially will leave me with this as a full bike and that one as a frame without the engine. So let me show you what's going on with the rest of the stuff. I'll take my face off camera and I'll take you down the end of the workshop and I'll show you the bits and pieces. Okay, we're down the end of the workshop. You saw in the previous video that there are a couple of swing arms in here, a couple of rear mud guards, a triple tree, but also a nice 1977 front mudguard there. A couple of sets of bodywork in there. Obviously wiring harnesses ranging from the late 70s right the way through to the last models, which would have been 82, 83, 84. The most important bit is that in this stack of swing arms right here, we have a correct one for a 77, which is perfect. These pieces that are laid out on the floor, fairly generic, but things like the battery box, the rear tail light holder, the ancillaries holder here for the regulator rectifier and the connector for the battery, solenoid, so on and so forth. Also a stock set of handlebars here that should polish up very nicely. I don't think they'll need to be re-chromed at all. It might be hard to believe that something as sort of chintzy looking as that will actually come up. Obviously, this will need some work, but that's a later bike anyway. It doesn't use that master cylinder. The really good news is there is a complete swing arm over there that has already had a lot of work done to it. So for our 77 project, as I mentioned, it uses the brake drum, which is this one. This swing arm is correct for a 77. Their date stamped up here on the other side. This wheel right here is already done. So you can just see the hub under there, and the rear wheel is over there. So we have a complete setup for a 77 bar a motor. Okay, well, not much good if it doesn't have an engine in it. Well, we do. We picked up another motor for a 650. This one is correct. They're all pretty much the same from 1977 when they were introduced to 1983 when they stopped making them. Some minor internal changes in there, but essentially it's the same lump. So that has been rattle canned black. This is literally just the worst paint job anybody's ever done. So what we'll do, the early engines are supposed to look like that. So that nice bare metal finish, it's not painted. So we'll just basically spray acetone on this to remove all this nonsense. Once we get a clean finish, we think we can then test the engine to make sure it's got good compression. Obviously, painted spark plugs, not really a thing. So I think it's supposed to be, anyway, this is supposed to be a running engine. So if it's got compression, obviously we'll do all of the service that's required on this. So oil and filter, new plugs, check everything, make sure it's all working. But essentially, once all of this black nonsense is cleaned off of here, we should have a pretty tidy looking lump. There's no damage or anything that I've been able to find. That can go straight into the 77 frame. And it appears to be a stock engine. There's nothing been done to it. I haven't turned it over yet, but I'm assuming it's stock and that's what we're going to run with. The other nice thing is we're able to pick up one more set of gauges. So that's all OE gauges and things like seat locks and stuff like that. So a lot of work to come, but essentially the makings are here to do four Z650s. So the New South Wales Police one, which just needs the tank fitted and she'll be running. The 78 with the up-spec motor, which is now a 720 motor. That has pretty much everything there. We're just waiting for instruments on that one, and the exhaust system is that nice shiny one right there, and the two that I just mentioned. So 650 Kawasaki production line back in effect after not being around since 1983. And obviously we have updates on the Z1000A1, the 77 Z1000A1 that's coming. An interesting story about the rear brake, which I'll do in the next video. We have an update on the Honda as well. So all the bits that have been over there and over there are now going onto the bike. Have an update about the steering head bearings on that one. And of course the 1979 Z1000 Mark II, which we have a very interesting brake story about that one too. So I'll do that as a separate video. Anyway, enough of my face. Thank you very much for watching the video. Love the comments. Thank you very much for all the enthusiasm. And it's great to be in a workshop that we actually have space to do things. And the space is becoming nicer. So anybody want to pop over for a coffee? We now have a coffee machine. Catch you in the next video, everybody. Hope you had a great weekend. Cheers.